Ivy's shocking confession letter destroys Electra. Family torn apart. On an explosive new chapter of The Bold and the Beautiful, Ivy Forrester's shocking confession letter detonates like a lemon in the middle of the Forrester family, leaving Electra shattered and the entire clan reeling from a verity no bone saw coming. What begins as a quiet, nearly reflective moment in the Forrester manse snappily spirals into one of the most emotionally ruinous competitions the family has faced in times. The letter, handwritten and designedly left where Electra would find it, isn't just an reason or a simple admission of guilt. It is a calculated, deeply particular disclosure that exposes Ivy's manipulation, covetousness, and long-stewing resentment. For months, Ivy has been subtly steering Electra's life from the murk, nudging her toward certain opinions, brooding dubieties about her connections, and precisely situating herself as the only bone who truly understood her. But in this concession, Ivy eventually admits that her conduct were no way about protection or love, they were about control. She confesses that she designedly sabotaged Electra's relationship, fed misinformation to crucial family members, and indeed orchestrated moments designed to insulate Electra emotionally, so she'd feel dependent on her. The words on the runner cut deeper than any argument ever could. Ivy writes that she stressed being replaced, stressed that Electra's rising confidence and connection with the rest of the family would leave her inapplicable. In a moment of brutal honesty, she admits she begrudged Electra's bond with Ridge, and the admiration she entered at Forrester Creations. She indeed reveals that some of the recent chaos skirting the company, lost documents, misinterpreted exchanges, and unforeseen boardroom pressures, can be traced back to her advised hindrance. When Electra reads the letter, her hands fluctuate. First, she refuses to believe it. The Ivy she knew, probative, sharp, sometimes protective, could inconceivably have orchestrated such a treason. But as she reads line after line of Ivy's own words, the verity becomes inarguable. Flashbacks submerge her mind, the subtle commentary Ivy made about trusting no bone, the excessively timed warnings, the asseveration that others were conniving against her. It all clicks into place, forming a ruinous mosaic of manipulation. Electra's heartache snappily turns into fury. She storms into the main living room where the family has gathered, letter in hand, her voice shaking as she demands answers. The pressure in the room is palpable as she reads extracts audibly, forcing everyone to defy Ivy's admissions. Shock ripples across every face. Some refuse to believe it, others begin to connect the blotches themselves. The fallout is immediate and brutal. Allegations fly. Old injuries resurface. The family fractures into sides, those who feel sympathy for Ivy's instability, and those who believe her conduct are insupportable. Electra still stands alone in her desolation. The treason feels deeply particular because Ivy was someone she trusted implicitly. The emotional weight of realizing that so numerous of her recent struggles were finagled by someone who claimed to love her is nearly too important to bear. Meanwhile, Ivy, cornered and exposed, must face the consequences of her concession. When she eventually appears, there's no denial, no attempt to twist the narrative. Rather, she stands in quiet abdication, admitting that the letter was her way of ending the facade. She claims she couldn't live with the guilt presently, that watching Electra suffer under the veritably doubts she planted came unsupportable. Yet indeed in her reason there's an turnabout of tone defense. She insists she only did it because she believed Electra was making dangerous choices, that she was trying to save her from heartache. This vindication only energizes Electra's wrathfulness. To her, it proves that Ivy still doesn't completely grasp the magnitude of what she's done. The battle heights into a raw, tear-filled exchange that leaves both women emotionally exposed. Electra accuses Ivy of stealing her agency, of stealing her of authentic jests by manipulating the narrative behind the scenes. Ivy counters that Electra was naive and vulnerable, and that someone had to step by. The rest of the family watches, torn between heartache and unbelief. Some attempt to intervene, prompting remission and understanding, while others demand responsibility. The formerly united Forrester menage now feels like a battlefield of broken trust. As the occasion unfolds, the consequences ripple outward. Connections strain under the pressure of choosing sides. Business opinions at Forrester Creations come tense as particular treason bleeds into professional dynamics. Electra, formerly confident and hopeful, retreats inward, questioning her instincts and distrusting her judgment. She wonders how she failed to see the signs, how she allowed herself to be so completely manipulated. The emotional literalism of the plot lies in that veritably doubt, the way treason doesn't just hurt in the moment but lingers, eroding tone trust. Ivy's concession letter doesn't just expose her conduct, it forces every character to defy uncomfortable trueness about fidelity, covetousness, and the fragile line between love and control. In classic cleaner fashion, the drama is heightened, but the emotional core feels sorrowfully authentic. The occasion closes on a creepy image: Electra alone in her room, the crumpled letter on her office, gashes drying on her cheeks as she gapes out the window, scuffling with the reality that family can be both sanctuary and source of the deepest injuries. Ivy, meanwhile, stands at a crossroads, ostracized, regretful, yet still scuffling with her own apologies. The family is left to decide whether remission is possible, or whether some backstabbings permanently alter the fabric of their bonds. In true Bold and the Beautiful style, the concession letter doesn't just end a chapter, it ignites a new period of conflict, soul-searching, and emotional reckoning that will resonate for weeks to come, reminding observers that in this world, secrets no way stay buried, and the verity, no matter how painful, always demands its moment in the light. As the emotional shockwaves from Ivy's concession continue to ripple through the Forrester estate, the fate unfolds with the kind of layered intensity that has long defined the Bold and the Beautiful. The letter may have been a single act, but its consequences fracture connections in ways no bone can fluently repair. What originally sounded like a private reckoning between Ivy and Electra snappily becomes a family-wide extremity, exposing precariousness, battles, and long-buried resentments that have been stewing beneath the polished face of the Forrester heritage. Electra's desolation doesn't fade overnight. In the days following the explosive battle, she moves through the manse like a ghost, her formerly bright presence bedimmed by mistrustfulness and demotion. Every corner of the house feels tainted by recollections she now questions. Moments that formerly sounded probative now feel strategic. Respects sound like manipulation in hindsight. Indeed, Horselaugh participated over regale renewals in her mind as commodity calculated. The cerebral risk is profound. Treason by a rival is one thing. Treason by someone who claimed to love you is commodity additional entirely. Ivy didn't just intrude with Electra's life, she rewrote it behind the scenes. At Forrester Creations, the pressure is inversely suffocating. Meetings that formerly concentrated on couture collections and marketing juggernauts are overshadowed by whispers and sideways ganders. Board members still question how important of the recent insecurity can be traced back to Ivy's plots. A delayed launch, a mysteriously blurted design conception, an unforeseen shift in investor confidence. Details that sounded coincidental now carry new weight. Electra, formerly eager to prove herself as a rising force in the company, now struggles to maintain her countenance in the boardroom. When she presents ideas, she senses mistrustfulness, not only from others but from herself. She wonders which openings were genuine and which were told by Ivy's subtle steering. Meanwhile, Ivy's insulation grows more pronounced with each passing day. Though she remains physically present, emotionally she's cut off. Exchanges halt when she enters a room. Assignations come scarce. Indeed, those who essay to show compassion do so cautiously, as though standing too close might interlace them. Ivy's internal conflict deepens. She tells herself that concession was an act of courage, that exposing the verity was the first step toward redemption. But she cannot escape the reality that the damage she caused may be unrecoverable. The veritably letter she intended as catharsis has come a symbol of her death. The heart of the conflict remains between Ivy and Electra. Their coming face-to-face hassle is quieter but no less important. There are no raised voices this time, no followership of stupefied cousins. Rather, there's a heavy silence filled with everything unsaid. Electra confronts Ivy not with fury but with clarity. She articulates how the manipulation burgled her of authentic choices. How the dubieties Ivy planted grew into precariousness that shaped her jest. How connections faltered because she trusted the wrong narrative. Ivy listens, gashes brimming, yet she still clings to the belief that her intentions were defensive. That stubborn thread of tone righteousness prevents true conciliation. Electra recognizes it incontinently. Remission, she realizes, requires responsibility without qualification. As days turn into weeks, alliances within the family begin to shift. Some argue that Ivy's concession demonstrates guilt, and that redemption should be possible. Others believe the advised nature of her conduct proves a pattern too dangerous to ignore. The debate fractures the consanity the Forrester name formerly represented. Family feasts grow tense. Leaves impend awkwardly on the horizon. Indeed, casual exchanges feel like accommodations. The ripple effect extends beyond emotional bonds into business strategy. Investors smell insecurity. Challengers circle like harpies, eager to exploit perceived weakness. Electra still begins a slow metamorphosis. Treason has stripped down her naivete, but it also awakens adaptability. She seeks remedy, defying the tone mistrustfulness Ivy cultivated. In quiet sessions, she untangles the web of manipulation, learning to separate her authentic instincts from the fears that were planted. She begins journaling, reclaiming her narrative in her own handwriting. An purposeful discrepancy to Ivy's concession letter. Where Ivy's words destroyed, Electra's words rebuild. The turning point arrives when Electra proposes a bold new action at Forrester Creations, one that emphasizes translucency and collaboration. She speaks not from wounded pride but from hard-earned wisdom. Her donation is steady, confident. For the first time since the letter surfaced, she doesn't regard over her shoulder in query. The room responds. There's respect in the silence that follows, also measured applause. It's a small palm, but it signals the morning of her recovery. Ivy watches from a distance, pride and remorse warring within her. She sees the strength in Electra that she formerly claimed to cover, and she realizes that her hindrance may have delayed, not averted, its emergence. The irony is painful. In trying to control Electra's path, she undervalued her capacity to navigate it singly. That recognition chips down at Ivy's tone apologies, leaving raw guilt in their place. Still, consequences remain. Trust, formerly broken, doesn't mend with a single reason. Electra sets firm boundaries. She makes it clear that while she doesn't wish to see Ivy destroyed, she cannot allow her back into her inner circle. The relationship as it formerly was is over. What remains is a conservative civility, defined by distance and tone preservation. The family, too, begins conforming to a new normal. Gatherings renew, though the horse laugh is softer. Business stabilizes, though alert remains high. Yet in true cleaner pieces fashion, the concession letter continues to echo in unanticipated ways. An stranger threatens to expose the contents intimately, hoping to exploit the reproach. The possibility of captions forces the family to defy the broader counteraccusations of Ivy's conduct. They must decide whether to close species or let responsibility play out in the public eye. Electra surprises everyone by championing honesty. Secrets got us then, she says still. Verity is the only way forward. Her station shifts the narrative. What began as particular treason evolves into an assignment about integrity, both within family and in business. As the season progresses, observers substantiation a nuanced depiction of mending. It isn't direct. There are lapses, moments when Electra's confidence wiggles, moments when Ivy's guilt resurfaces with suffocating intensity. But there are also improvements. Electra begins mentoring a youngish intern, determined to foster commission rather than reliance. Ivy levies for charitable enterprise, channelizing her guilt into palpable good. These resemblant peregrinations suggest that indeed in the wake of desolation, growth is possible. The final scenes of this extended bow are understated yet important. Electra stands in the Forrester exchange, watching models walk beneath brilliant lights. There's pride in her expression, not because everything is perfect, but because she endured fault and surfaced stronger. Ivy observes from hence, understanding that propinquity is no longer her place. Their eyes meet compactly across the room, not with hostility but with acknowledgement. The history cannot be cancelled, but it can be learned from. In the world of the bold and the beautiful, drama frequently erupts in spectacular fashion. But the continuing impact of Ivy's concession letter lies not only in the shock it delivered, but in the emotional literalism of its fate. It explores how covetousness can feint as protection, how love can come control, and how verity, however painful, is necessary for metamorphosis. Electra's destruction becomes reconstruction. The family's fracture becomes a test of adaptability, and Ivy's fall from grace becomes an exemplary tale about the cost of manipulation. Eventually, the plot reinforces a dateless verity. Family bonds are important, but they aren't imperishable. They bear honesty, respect, and the courage to defy uncomfortable realities. Ivy's letter may have torn the family piecemeal, but it also forced them to review what consanity truly means. In that redefinition lies the heart of the drama: messy, emotional, and incontrovertibly mortal. In the weeks following Ivy's ruinous concession, the emotional terrain on The Bold and the Beautiful becomes indeed more intricate, shelling back subcast after subcast of family history, contest, pride, and vulnerability. What originally appeared to be a single act of treason reveals itself as the capstone of times of implied competition and silent comparison. Ivy's letter didn't crop in insulation. It was born from a continuance of feeling supplemental in a dynasty that thrives on heritage, power, and visibility. Electra begins to understand that the treason, while particular, is also generational. The Forrester name carries weight, anticipation, scrutiny, heritage. Every success is magnified, every failure scanned. Ivy grew up watching others step painlessly into the limelight, while she frequently felt like the understudy. Though she held gift and intelligence, she demanded the imperturbable confidence that sounded to come naturally to others in the family. Electra, youngish and rising snappily within the company, represented everything Ivy stressed: renewal, applicability, and the possibility of being overshadowed permanently. This consummation doesn't excuse Ivy's conduct, but it complicates them. And complexity is where the show thrives. Electra wrestles with clashing feelings. Part of her wants to reduce Ivy to a villain, someone purely vicious and calculating. It would be easier that way. But the letter's raw honesty refuses similar simplicity. Ivy admitted covetousness. She admitted instability. She admitted to planting seeds of mistrustfulness because she stressed being forgotten. The humanity in those admissions makes remission both further possible and more delicate. At Forrester Creations, the business ramifications consolidate. A rival fashion house hints at exploiting the family disharmony, subtly representing internal insecurity during interviews. Though no names are mentioned, the recrimination is clear. Public relations brigades scramble to contain enterprise. Electra finds herself thrust into media appearances before than anticipated. She sits beneath bright plant lights, answering precisely drafted questions about the company's future. Her countenance impresses observers, but behind the scenes, her hands fluctuate before every broadcast. Each public statement feels like reclaiming ground Ivy formerly destabilized. Meanwhile, Ivy faces a different kind of reckoning, private but grim. Sleep becomes fugitive. The silence of her room amplifies recollections of the choices she made: the anonymous emails, the deceiving advice, the orchestrated competitions. She renewals the moment she decided to write the concession letter. It was late. The house was quiet. She had watched Electra laughing downward, ignorant of the strings being pulled. Guilt overwhelmed her. The letter was no way meant as a strategic move. It was an emotional breaking point. Yet intention doesn't negate impact. Ivy now understands that concession doesn't guarantee forgiveness. Family gatherings remain fragile. At one particularly tense regale, an inoffensive comment about leadership triggers an eruption of undetermined pressure. Allegations resurface. Someone questions whether Ivy's jest reflects deeper dysfunction within the family culture, a pattern of competition disguised as ambition. The discussion forces everyone to defy uncomfortable trueness: favoritism, silent battles, the pressure to outperform siblings and relatives likewise. For the first time, the family begins admitting that Ivy's conduct may have been extreme, but the terrain that shaped them wasn't entirely impeccable. Electra still refuses to let the narrative shift into collaborative guilt. In an important moment, she addresses the room with measured clarity. She acknowledges the pressure they all face but draws a firm line between instability and manipulation. "We all struggle," she says still, "but we do and each choose to control someone additional's life." The statement hangs in the air, inarguable. It marks a turning point in how the family frames the situation. Empathy doesn't equal exculpation. As months pass, subtle shifts do. Electra's confidence grows steadier, less reactive. She begins leading a mentorship action within the company, designed to foster collaboration rather than competition. Youthful contrivers are encouraged to partake ideas openly, reducing the secretiveness that formerly fueled distrust. The action is praised internally and gains positive media attention. It becomes emblematic of a new chapter, one erected on translucency rather than